Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talk is Cheap. I'm your host, Miss Carrie Baby, coming to you live. Yes, it is Wednesday. It's Cinco de Mayo. I hope everybody's enjoying festivities. And yes, I do have a special guest here tonight with me, Miss Rabia Sopani. Yes, shouts out to Columbus, Georgia. Yeah, she is in the house tonight, guys, and we'll be discussing a few things directed towards autism and neurodiversity, different terms like that. She will explain those as well, and it's for me to also be knowledgeable and you guys to learn new things as well. So thank you guys that are going to join us tonight. If any listeners join us tonight, and just thank you for your support, Miss Rubia, and coming on. So. I share everything with you guys. Monday night was some storms. We had a tough time out in Georgia. It was raining real hard, and out here in Dallas, it was raining hard. So, yes, I am live tonight from downtown Dallas, and everything is looking pretty good. It's sunny out here on both sides of town. So, yes, guys, tonight we're going to focus more on autism, and it is also Mental Health Month. So shout out to that. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. And I was just sharing with Miss Rabia that at the end of this month, Talk is Cheap is having its first happy anniversary to, my podcast and me doing this. And this is why I started it, for Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I always feel like it's always great to be mentally aware. And as I was sharing with my guests, it's a lot of mental health professionals, we work in our field, we have a passion for it, and we just seeking more experience and growth within our field and learning new things. You can always just learn something new as time goes on, and just know that you matter in your field, and you're just not going to work every day working and saying, oh, I'm helping, I'm doing good, and you're not learning something new. And that's what I love about social work and mental health and the clients that I work with and the lives that I've touched as well. And also just learning from my guests. Mental disorder that's characterized by difficulties with social interaction and communication, and by restricted and repetitive behaviors. So I was sharing with a few people as well that I came in working in social work with mental health was on my mind. I didn't know where to really start and everything, but I started out working with kids that had autism on to senior citizens, and it was very life-changing. There was some things where I had to write goals. So I was what they call a service coordinator. And with being a service coordinator, we had to write goals for our clients and ensure that they meet those goals within a 30 month time period, day time period to 90 days. So within that 1 month to 3 month time period, you have to see how your client is making these positive changes. There were some that, like me and Ms. Rubia said, that we used to call them high functioning and you're low functioning. I had to also learn that a lot of those times, those terms are getting thrown out of the water, and new terms are coming aboard and abroad to enlighten us and to throw away those stigmas. So those are some things that me and Ms. Rubia will talk about, different terms that's used with autism, her experience with autism, and then just me, putting in my enlightenment and my experience in autism. I feel like they have made a change in my life to be able to work with people that have the developmental disorder and see them overcome as well. So it's great. So yes, Ms. Rabia, what's your perspective on autism?
Well, first, Ms. Carrie, thank you for having me on your program.
Yes.
I'm very happy to be here. So my perspective on autism is that we have come a long way from when we first were able to diagnose this, and the definitions have changed for how you diagnose it. We used to have different kinds of autism. We used to have, like PDD, which was pervasive developmental disorder. We used to have autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's disorder. And then several years ago, they combined that all under one big umbrella to call it autism spectrum disorder. So that's where we're at now. And regarding the language and the terminology, we're really trying to get away from the more negative types of labeling. So neurodiverse is one that I have found to be very acceptable by those who have autism and have other neurodiverse challenges. So instead of labeling, these kids and adults with different kinds of, like, calling it a disorder or a disability or something, we just say it's a neurodiverse pathway, because their brain development is just non-typical. So it's just diverse, in other words.
Yes, great. Thank you, Ms. Rubion, your input. Also introduce yourself. Where are you from?
Sure.
What do you do?
So I'm a licensed psychologist and also a certified mindfulness teacher. And I don't know how much you wanted me to get into the background of how I came to that, but I'll just give you a very quick bio that I trained as a pediatric neuropsychologist, and I did a lot of testing with children who had some kind of brain injury or epilepsy or developmental issue, learning disabilities, neurodiverse learning issues. And I did this for several years. And then I had some personal life changes happen about 8 years ago. And I decided to go on my own spiritual, personal development journey. And I had been having issues with my son, who went through a lot of changes, and as a result had many behavioral issues and mood issues. And so we were not interacting very well, and none of the techniques that I had learned in my training were working very well. So I thought, well, instead of trying to change his behavior, why don't I change my reactions to his behavior? So I went on my own journey, and I really got immersed into mindfulness and self-compassion. And those trainings had such a profound impact on me that I wanted to be able to offer that to other families who had children with neurodiverse challenges. So I retrained in several evidence-based mindfulness trainings, and subsequently started teaching other families how to do mindfulness and self-compassion, and developed my own program along the way so I could get all of those components in that I wanted. So that's what I do now. I teach mindfulness to families that have children with neurodiverse challenges.
Yes, ma'am. It's great. And we're going to talk more about mindfulness, like she said, a little bit later. That was just a little snippet of, the miraculous things that she's done and what she's overcome. And it's great. So yes, Miss Rabia, let's jump right in. How was it, growing up and raising your son that had, autism? And when did you first notice it?
So it's kind of ironic, but I actually trained and specialized in autism before I got married and had my child. So, but I worked with populations that had many more issues. And so my son had more milder symptoms. I guess you could call it mild. So I actually kind of missed it in the beginning. And when he was around 2.5 or 3, he started, he had a language delay. And then he also started doing some of the red flags that you see in autism, which is hand flapping. So when I noticed the hand flapping and the speech delay, I was like, oh, I think he's somewhere on the spectrum. So after that point, I started doing all of the things that I had been trained in to do with autism. But I did do mindfulness with him from the start, actually. And my biggest realization when I went on my own journey was that my biggest issue had been that I taught mindfulness for him because I thought he had the issues and the challenges. I didn't do it for me. And that was my biggest mistake, because when I went on my own spiritual journey, I was like, oh, if I had been doing this from the start for myself, I would have been modeling it for him, and I would have had a better, calmer reaction when he was, having a meltdown. If he had seen that I was not losing, mommy's holding on to her temper and she's calm and relaxed, and maybe he would have, in turn, had a better response as well. So that's why I thought it was so important to teach other parents. Actually, before you teach the kids, I think the parents or caregivers need to know those techniques and practice them themselves before they try to teach their children.
Yes,
so that's how I got into
it. Yes, totally agree. So when you start teaching your son mindfulness or this curriculum or this strategy, how old was he?
So when I first started with him, he was 4 or 5. There are lots of little things you can do with kids to teach them about breathing techniques. You can teach them walking meditation, just to walk carefully and mindfully. You can teach them little activities that they can do. one of the things that I like to teach him when he was little is called a Pebble Meditation. And you hold a pebble in your hand and you just think something good with the pebble while you're holding it, or so little things that even younger children can do. And he did those. He actually enjoyed doing them. He liked doing the little mindful movements, kind of like yoga, like kids yoga. He actually enjoyed doing all that. But when he hit puberty and all those changes happened, everything he'd learned kind of just went out the door. And I think because I wasn't there modeling it with him and doing it with him, it wasn't helpful for him to have just been taught, just that on his own. He needed more than that. He needed parental support or, somebody doing it with him. So that's why now I'm like my focus is on the parents now more. I do want to teach the kids eventually, but right now the program is let's get the parents on board and teach them the tools they need to, and face it, a lot of parents that have, or even caregivers of children that have neurodiverse challenges have a lot of their own issues. They're stressed. They have no self-compassion. They blame themselves for things. So I think it's so important to make sure we're taking care of the parents as well as the children.
Yes, that's great. So how old is he now? And how has mindfulness helped him over the years with you just teaching him that? And how is we talked about it a little bit, but just share with them how autism is and what's changed.
So so I started the trainings with him when he was young, and they're really great for children that have autism or actually any other kind of neurodiverse challenge like anxiety, because they really help you ground yourself. So these children get overwhelmed easily with sensory overload, and there's too much noise or light, there's too many people. So if you can bring yourself back to where you are, ground yourself, like feel your feet on the floor, come back to your body, then those kind of techniques help these children get grounded and it reduces the overwhelm. So when my child was younger, he was able to use those. When he got older, he kind of lost it. But since I went back and did the training for myself, I've been teaching him those things again, and we've been working together on them. So it helps him with his anxiety. And like when he gets overwhelmed or he gets worked up, we're like, just take some breathing, do some quick, take a step back from your overwhelm, take a few deep breaths, come back to where you are, feel your feet on the ground. And so that helps to calm him down.
That's right. So getting into what is mindfulness and how did you come about developing this program?
So mindfulness is bringing your attention to the present moment with a loving, non-judgmental awareness. It's basically, practically speaking, it's just focusing on whatever you're doing at the time without thinking about the past or the future, and just bringing all of your focus on what you're doing. So for example, if you were to wash the dishes mindfully, you would watch the water coming out of the faucet, see it as it hits the sink, feel the soap suds on your hands, the water rushing over your hand as you wash the dishes. So your entire focus is on what you're doing. You're not thinking about, oh, I need to cook this next, or what did I do this morning? You just completely focused on what you're doing. So I'm sorry, what was the other question? Oh, how did I program?
How did you develop it?
So when I did those, my own personal journey, I saw how mindfulness helped me calm down and relax. And when my son had a meltdown, I was not reacting to him. I wasn't shouting. I was responding kindly and with compassion. And when I noticed that, and it kept happening over and over, I was like, oh, so these practices are helping me to not overreact, not to get upset, not to be caught up in my emotions. So I was able to, regulate my emotions. And when I was calmer, he was calmer. And so I thought, well, this is something that I really want to bring to other families, because most people aren't aware of mindfulness, and they don't have, they can't go out and do the 5, 6, 7 different, months long trainings that I did, the 2-year program I did. So how can I create something that is in small chunks, because parents are already overwhelmed. They don't need to be doing 8-month courses, right? But something that has all of those pieces in there that are so helpful for parents, like namely self-compassion, because I think that's really needed especially by parents of children with autism or any other neurodiverse challenge. Positive psychology. because it's all good and well to live in the moment, but you need optimism and hope and joy, and you need something to
Yes.
live for, and a way to live from a place of compassion and joy, not being fearful and anxious all the time or stressed. And so I felt like all those pieces need to come into, like one central place where you could learn. And I'm not saying everybody has to take my program. There are all these tools, and this information is all over the internet as well. But just to get help somewhere, because I think so many parents are overwhelmed and they don't know where to go and what to do. And I do have some free resources on my site, by the way. I have a free mini course for mindful parenting, and I have a master class on how to take care of yourself while you're parenting a neurodiverse child. So,
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
So with mindfulness, how long, get into more about how long your course is, and some of the things that that parents can learn, more detail about what this course is. And I guess an overload question here, what is some of the things that your parents are struggling with when they come to you with their issues or wanting the mindfulness course?
Yeah, so I'll start with that one first, because that's probably more important.
Yeah.
So most parents that come to me for classes or the course are struggling with overwhelm, stress, anxiety. They don't know, their children either have behavioral issues that they don't know how to deal with, or the parents are just overwhelmed and don't know what to do. They have no time for themselves. They don't know how to do self-care. And sometimes, and this is one of the main issues why I felt so strongly about teaching mindfulness, especially to kids that have autism, is because a lot of these children don't do well in talk therapy because they have difficulty verbalizing. And so if they're able to do mindfulness, they can learn how to ground themselves and get focused without having to talk about it. They can bring themselves back to a place of peace and calm by breathing deeply or doing a short meditation. So your other question was about what mindfulness activities there are, or how the courses goes.
Yes.
So it's an 8-week online course. They're pre-recorded videos, and there are 6 modules in the program. So each module has a different focus. Like the first one is the basics of mindfulness, introduction, a little bit of research it goes into detail about different kinds of practices, and there's lots of meditations you can do. And then there's one whole module on just self-compassion, which teaches you self-compassion practices and why it's so important to take care of yourself. I like to give the oxygen mask analogy in the airplane for parents that need to take care of themselves first. So they have the energy and the resources to take care of their kids. Then I talk about stress, body stress, how does stress affect your body? What can you do to make sure you're taking care of yourself? Do some mindful movements like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or something that helps you, get your body in a more physically fit state, but also that you're releasing some of that stress somehow. And then I talk about positive psychology. What practices can you start developing? Like gratitude is an important one. Savoring, where you just linger over something and enjoy the pleasurable experience of it. So these are little tools that you can start implementing every day so that your day-to-day living improves, in your mindset changes, the level that your brain is at its calmest changes, and it's more to make you upset. And if you keep doing these little practices, and it doesn't have to be, like sitting for 15 minutes, you can just sit for 2 minutes one day and maybe 10 the next day, or skip a day. You don't have to. You have to take care of yourself while you're doing it and just do what you're capable of, so you're not overexerting yourself.
Yes, totally agree. And just stress alone, that's why I want you to elaborate on some of the things that people are going through that, can attend and take your course, because maybe they don't have the time, or maybe they don't have the need to say, a lot of times I feel like we as people, we get so overwhelmed and stuff. And then we say, well, still things have to get done. I don't have time to take care of myself. I have to take care of my family. I have to take care of the kids, or I just have to go to work. This is an ongoing pattern, and you don't even see the things that you're missing in your life for not just taking a break, or how overwhelmed and stressed your body is getting. So I think a lot of things, to sum all that together, it is great to know mindfulness because it keeps you mindful of
Yes.
the things that you're doing. This is common everyday activities, but maybe this time it got a little bit off course, or maybe I got a little bit off task because of the things that's going on in my life. And I think that's a lot with COVID too. I can just
Absolutely.
imagine. Yes, and you can explain out your experience with that as well during this time. How has your courses been going with families that are, or parents that's dealing with COVID, and how things have kept them at home, or have they been out? Essential workers been working more than usual.
I think the families that I've worked with have been even more overwhelmed, just because COVID has kept a lot of kids at home. Actually, most kids last year were at home all year, and a lot of parents didn't have other childcare support. So a lot of last year there was a lot of overwhelm. In fact, I was doing a lot of free meditations in my groups and stuff because I knew so many people were overwhelmed. But it was also one of the good things that came out. I don't know if I should say it that way, was that more people did turn towards mindfulness, and they did turn towards online courses because they were stuck at home. And so they were able to access, especially people that live in rural areas, were able to access things that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to attend because so many people went online. So there were so many options for people to take meditations or learn mindful techniques. But like you said, I think it's so important to have, if you just learn a few of the techniques so that you can use them when you need them, it's so helpful when you get stressed to be able to come back to that. Oh yeah, I remember I can breathe, or I can just put my hand on my heart and offer myself some comfort. Or, I can just remember to take what we call a self-compassion break, where you just remind yourself that you're not alone and acknowledge that you're in a moment of stress, and then say something, kind word of support to yourself. Like, may I be strong, or may I accept myself just as I am. And so those little techniques, if you pick up and you learn those and you're able to use them when something stressful comes up, it can have such a profound impact on your mindset, on your mental state, on your reactions or responses to your children when they do get upset, which they will get. Kids are always going to be upset, but if you have some way to respond in a kinder, gentler way, if you're doing compassionate parenting, you will see a huge change in the energy of your house and the energy of your relationships with your children, even your significant other. It takes down the whole family stress down to a whole level of more peace.
Yes, totally agree. Yes, and always just expanding, like you said, you hit something there about, the less stress is positivity. So I feel like people should always, as much as you can, just manifest some positivity in life about, how to interact or build those healthy relationships. And I feel like that is always needed, especially like we said during this time of COVID. I can only imagine how things have gone in certain households, because it's not saying that people don't like their families, but when you're doing individual things, and then after work we see our kids, or after work we see our spouse, then it's a little bit better to be like, okay, I've been doing my thing all day, now I'm happy to see y'all type of deal. And everybody has their own hobbies and the way that they recollect together, or just being happy. I know something in my family that since COVID has been around, we haven't gotten to do a lot, and like other families probably haven't too. We celebrate everything. It's every holiday we celebrate it. Like your Cinco de Mayo today, we would have all been like, let's go get tacos, let's have a drink or two. Those are some things that we missed over this past year of having to do that, or not being able to hang out that much, or together at all, really, because some family members live far, they haven't been able to travel like they would like to. So those are some things that can be stressful to others, that saying, well, how can I deal with this not being able to be around my family? Or how can I find different things to do in place of it until I can meet them again, So that's great.
Great. That's great. It looks like your family's living positively.
Yes, ma'am. We try. Yes, ma'am. So, how does your coaching to help your clients, adjust and make those positive changes?
So with the coaching, what I do is I work with clients to see where they may have blockages in their life and what's holding them back from being able to live their most authentic and purposeful life. Because my goal is to make everybody see that they don't have to be in a stuck place. They don't have to live in a place where they're worried to take that next step, or something's holding them back from being able to live their full potential. And whether it's parenting or just in general, because one of the things I teach is about how to live from a place of joy and love, and compassion, and all those qualities that if you start implementing those qualities in day-to-day living, it completely changes your outlook on life, your mindset, your ability to interact with others. It opens up a whole new avenue of living. Basically, you're living from a place of love and joy, and not so fearful about everything, and not being afraid to take that next step or take that plunge and try something new. And so it really helps people to live more positively. It's basically the bottom line is, like, whether it's for if you have parenting issues, or whether it's just you're just stuck in life and you don't know what to do next, or if you're on your own spiritual journey and you don't know where to go, or you're confused or questioning, or if you have an illness, or people get stuck in almost any area of life. And so helping clear those blockages by seeing that a lot of the blockages that we create are not really blockages at all. They're things that we think are blockages. And we're not, once you start to think more clearly and you think beyond that, go a little bit deeper into, well, what was the reason behind why you're scared to do that? Yeah. And then you're able to see that, maybe that was just something I made up, or something that was more of an obstacle in my mind than it is in reality. And there is nothing holding me back. And so it's amazing how far what people are willing to do when they realize that they were holding themselves back, and it wasn't anything in reality that was holding them back.
Yes, totally agree. So you hit on it a little bit about, I guess I want you to go in more detail about the difference, why you haven't took on, with children, the strategy teaching more children, and how you teach the adults. What are some things that are different when working with, what are some things that are different when working with adults and then children, and why you haven't taken that on yet?
Okay, so the main reason was because I realized through my own personal experience that if you don't teach the parents, then teaching the kids is about 30% of the work. So teaching parents is 70%, because parents are not only going to be modeling what's appropriate behavior with mindfulness, right? They're not only are they modeling it, but they're actually living it. And so they have their own stress level goes down. And a lot of these parents that have children with neurodiverse challenges actually have some neurodiverse issue themselves. And the more you work with people, the more you realize that, it might be genetic. So those parents are struggling, and sometimes they don't even know it because they've never been diagnosed. So if you teach the parents first, then they're able to not only teach their children how to do it, but they're also in a much more calmer level or state when they're doing it. Okay. And so that's why I wanted to approach the parents first. And then, but I do think it's important to teach the children. So like, even in my current program, each of the modules has a section to teach children some of these activities, but I'm also going to be creating separate program for children like later this year. In the fall, I just wanted to make sure that I think it's more important for the parents and caregivers to learn it first, because then they'll know what their children are doing when they're doing the exercises as well. But they're also have already got those practices in place, so the kids see, oh, well, mom is meditating for 5 minutes. Maybe especially if they're younger, they may want to do it with mom or dad. And they may, when you teach children how to eat mindfully and you're the parent and you're doing it at the table, they're going to see that you're eating mindfully. So they may start eating mindfully. And you can go for, walking meditations together. So if you teach the parents first, I think it's a much more potent impact than it is to teach the kids first, because then the kids are just, kids have a hard time telling their parents what they're trying to do. the other way around, parents can teach the kids, but the kids can't really tell the parents, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what my program is saying or my teacher is saying. So the other way around just makes more sense logistically.
Yes, totally agree. I just want you to elaborate on that the children's courses is coming and it is on its way as well. And I guess my mindset about that was about children that are teenagers are becoming through, they go through a lot of different changes that we should be mindful of. And even with neurodiversity teens as well. When they change different schools, I know a lot of times with my clients that had IDD or autism, they didn't like change. They like consistency. They like to see the same person. They like to see the same time. And that become a part of the parents as well, to see the same person, to meet at the same times and meet at the same places. So it just keeps everybody on this routine in your, routine schedule in your mind to say, okay, we know we have to do the day. We can't get him off track. If anything goes wrong, then I have to put something else in place. It was just different things that went around it as well. So I guess I want you to explain. We've been using the term neurodiversity, and you enlighten me. So enlighten my listeners on neurodiversity and how we're getting away from the stigma.
Sure. So there's been a move over the last several years to kind of get away from any labels that are kind of not demeaning so much, but not kind. Maybe that the children and adults feel demeaned in some way, that it's negative, has a negative connotation, like disorder, disability. It kind of makes the person who's got it feel less than. And so there's been a move to get away from that and label it in a way that is more kinder, gentler, and still accurate. And so neurodiverse has been one that's been used in the last several years, and neurodivergent. They both pretty much mean the same thing, but it basically means that your pathway of neurological development is not typical, but it's not bad in any way. It's just different. So diverse is a good way to say that. It's just diverse. Yes. It's not the typical or mainstream way of development, but it's just diverse. And so that's where the neurodiverse comes from. And I personally have completely taken to this because I think it's so much gentler and kinder, and yet still accurate. It's a much better way to say it because I like to tell my son that you're taking the scenic route in your brain instead of the straight highway, because it's just a different way to get there.
Yes, totally agree. And then, like you said, it gets off it enlightens, it acknowledges certain things, and then it's a different way of it, to bring about a positive perspective. And just like you said, keeping that positivity in your life, to not say, oh, there's something, because a lot of times you tend to think, oh, there's something wrong with my child. Or like you were saying, like sometimes it can be seen as a stigma or degrading to say, oh, he's low functioning, he's high functioning, right. Special ed, retardation. I know me and you had a conversation about that a couple of days ago about, they got away with the mental retardation.
Yes.
A lot of times you don't see in mental health facilities now, you don't see that type of language or that word thrown around, because it does kind of get away from what they're actually here to do. And you're focused on, oh, is something wrong with me? Or people call people stupid, crazy, all these different things.
Right. And it's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary unkindness. There's no reason to do that when we have other options. So I think, it's just getting.
And that's what I like too, that when, I share with you that MHMR got away with it. It's been mental health retardation for years. And now over the past 2-3 years, they changed it from my health, my resources, because that's what it is. That's, that's generally what it is. It's just not even for the mentally ill or disabled anymore. People can go there for different things, family counseling. They can go there for housing, if they're homeless, and even if they don't even have a disability. And a lot of times that's another stigma or stereotype too. People that are homeless, yes, majority may have a drug abuse issue or a mental illness. But a lot of times I've met some clients that I'm like, nothing seems wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you, And they're like, well, it's not. I had to, get my resources. I had to expand on my life to help me. And they said that this program had a homeless program, so I did the necessary things to get in there. So we can't always bring that stigma up and say, oh, every homeless person that I see, they're on drugs or something is wrong with them.
Right.
So yes, and that's a lot of positivity too. Span its positivity in your community and enlighten people, or don't disregard certain things or degrade others because you feel like something's wrong with them, or you see them at this certain facility. That doesn't mean that there's help out here for a lot of people, regardless if you want to say normal or have a mental illness as well. So yes, ma'am.
And one thing I wanted to point out was also that for children that are in school and have accommodations or something, a lot of them feel the stigma of being kind of sticking out. Yeah. So doing mindfulness activities is another good thing that you can teach children to use in place of, some of the more typical accommodations, because it doesn't make them stick out. They can do breathing exercises and nobody will know what they're doing, or they can do meditation real quick, or do a visualization or something. So that's also something that's a benefit of teaching children mindfulness.
Yes, and that's great. Even, and that's something about even implementing that into the school system as well. Or like you said, parents doing that at home. So that's a great point, because I know when I was growing up and in school, and I know it's different, different generations, because even now they don't pull the kids out or accommodate them separately or individually like they used to. And you be like, right. There goes so walking down the hallway. They don't do that anymore because of that stigma. And so I feel like if parents were to, take your course, Ms. Rubio, or learn mindfulness and implement that in their child's everyday lives, you never know how that typical learning disability you could see it gradually get them overcome from it, or, it will be lower where you don't even recognize it anymore from doing the techniques. And all we're really saying, guys, is be mindful with your family, spend time with them, develop this structure with your kids and take time with them and learn some of the things. We know that there's this new math. We know that there's this new age doing different things, but maybe some things could change and be more positive if we, bring the family structures together and people spend time with their children. Like Ms. Rubia says, she barely even notices that her son has autism or this disability now, or neurodiversity now that he has, because of her doing the strategies of mindfulness and taking up time with him and ensuring that he understands and that nothing is, getting in the way.
Well, it does. So it's a neurological issue, so it's not really going to go away. But a lot of the symptoms that he had associated with his anxiety have gone away because he's able to use those mindfulness techniques. So a lot of these issues, the neurodiverse issues, especially ones that have neurological bases, don't really go away, but your symptoms may change over time, and how you react to the symptoms may change over time. So. Yes. And I do have, for your listeners, I have a free booklet available on my website if they want to. It's got different mindfulness activities in it. It's like a little gift workbook. And it's at drrabia.com, drrabia.com/podcast. So if they want to download it, they're welcome to go. It just has a few mindfulness activities you can do with your kids. You can do by yourself. It has a few self-compassion practices as well.
Yes, that's great. I'll download it and you guys download it as well. And then I'll also, Ms. Ruby, if you want to put that address, the website, into the comments for everybody, and we'll have that available for you guys. And I'll also post it on top with the description of this podcast tonight. And so, Ms. Rubio, we want to thank you for coming. And any last encouraging remarks from our listeners and about mindfulness? It has been amazing, and your journey is amazing as well. And I thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, just like you said, Ms. Carrie, spend time with your children, learn how to be mindful. If you use some of the techniques in that free booklet, and just start incorporating those into your lifestyle, the more you can, use every day, the better. And the most important thing to remember is consistency. So even if you just do 5 minutes a day, that's better than nothing. And the more you do it, the more you see the effects of how it really changes your life, the more likely you are to start doing more and more of those practices. So, but thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on Talk is Cheap, and you have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Yes, we had an amazing podcast tonight with my guest, Miss Rabia Sapani from Columbus, Georgia. I thank her for supporting me and coming on and telling her story about how she's, licensed psychologist that found a new strategy to help her son that had a neurodiverse and autism spectrum disorder, and how, like she said, he won't overcome the neurological of it, but you will also see certain symptoms decrease from anxiety or how they react to certain things. And also helping parents that have children that have the autism spectrum disorder as well, regardless of if your child is with, high functioning or low functioning. These mindful things can help you in learning that mindfulness technique, can help you as a family grow into positivity. So I hope you guys enjoyed Talk is Cheap tonight. Just a few things, season 2 is still going on. It's going great. And I am getting ready for the 1-year anniversary. Yes, I can't wait. It'll be 1 year of me podcasting. This is, like I always share, this is always very therapeutic for me. Even in my new location, per se, I still make time to do my show. And I love my guests that have been on this season. I commend them. And also, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. This is why I do this, so everybody can be mentally aware. And it also helps me expand on my knowledge as a mental health social worker, and being here at my job and things that I do in the community as well, and enlighten you guys, and also have my guests tell their journey and things that they're dealing with and how they overcome things in their life as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, a few other things. Talk is Cheap is expanding from just a normal podcast. Within this next year, I have a lot of great things coming up for myself in my podcast, and seeing future guests that will be on for different panel discussions here throughout the year as well into season 3. Because, you guys, I am preparing you guys for my mini hiatus, per se. I go on a break for the summertime, and then I'll get geared back up for season 3 and have some guests that's returning, and looking forward to some new guests. So if you would like to be on Talk is Cheap, look at the scrolling banner across the bottom and email me at podcastofdallasinfo@gmail.com. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm ready to see the new things that's coming up, new hosting gigs, new things that Talk is Cheap is presenting to you guys. And check out some latest episodes. If you feel like there's some topics that I haven't covered yet, hit me up and let's get some started. So yes, I hope you guys enjoyed my guest tonight. Ms. Ruby, I enjoyed you. Your story is amazing, and enlightening me and my guests as well. And so I thank you guys for coming on tonight, and have a good one. Goodbye.